Looking at a map of 1919, Britain's worldwide empire seemed even more powerful than before the First World War, with Turkish and German territories added to it. However, Britain was exhausted after 4 years of war. Millions had died or been injured, and thousands of soldiers, sailors, and airmen wanted to return home quickly. How could politicians like Government Minister Winston Churchill still keep control of the country and its vast empire, while also balancing the books? One answer was simple: make drastic cuts to the armed forces, including the RAF. Hugh Trenchard, Chief of the Air Staff, faced 3 challenges. 1, to reduce the size of the Air Force. 2, to ensure the survival of the RAF in peacetime at all, when both the Army and the Navy wanted to shut it down. 3, to win popular support for the idea of air power and show that it had a future. Churchill told Trenchard to make do with little, which he certainly did. The Women's RAF was disbanded altogether. RAF numbers fell from 300,000 to under 30,000. Thousands of planes were scrapped for spare parts, and landing fields sold at knockdown prices. However, Trenchard also showed that the RAF was still a valuable military force. In 1920, he sent 12 RAF planes to bomb rebellious hill forts and villages in the colony of British Somaliland. It took just 3 weeks for air power to end the war, defeating an enemy the army had fought for 20 years. The politicians back home were delighted. It was called the cheapest war in history. Churchill proclaimed that the RAF's first duty was to garrison the British Empire. During the 1920s and 1930s, it was used in the same way to defeat rebellions and control territory in Iraq, Palestine, Arabia, and the northwest frontier province of Britain's Indian Empire. Trenchard knew that he had to organise the RAF effectively to resist attempts by the Army and Navy to shut it down. A new training college for pilot officer cadets was set up at Cranwell. Ground crew and technical staff were trained separately at Halton Hall. This division echoed the British class system of the period. Mostly privately educated public schoolboys trained at Cranwell, which even had its own pack of foxhounds for hunting. Working class boys went to Halton Hall as apprentices. They were known as Trenchard's brats. On average, only 3 of them per year ever transferred to train as aircrew or officers at Cranwell. There was no attempt to recruit women at all, apart from as nurses. Trenchard understood that he needed to promote air power as the military force of the future, to win public support and keep the backing of politicians. RAF pilots set new aviation records. For example, in 1919, John Alcock and Arthur Brown made the first 16-hour non-stop flight across the Atlantic. Overcoming faulty equipment, fog and ice, they finished the journey by crash landing into an Irish bog they mistook for a field. Churchill presented them with the Daily Mail's £10,000 award, worth over £500,000 now, and they were knighted by the King. Other flyers pioneered new air routes across continents and carried mail to servicemen posted overseas. The RAF Central Band played on BBC Radio. Annual air pageants and shows held at RAF Hendon attracted politicians, celebrities, and royalty. Volunteers were recruited to train as part-time pilots for the Auxiliary Air Force, while air squadrons were set up in universities. By the time he retired in 1930, Trenchard claimed, "I have laid the foundation for a castle. If nobody builds anything bigger than a cottage on them, it will at least be a very good cottage." However, in the early 1930s, the British government, in the face of the worldwide Great Depression, cut spending on the RAF again. Its aircraft were largely obsolete. In 1935, when King George V reviewed the RAF, all its planes were still biplanes, reflecting First World War technology. It was a force not fit for purpose.